This isn't giving us too much insight.
All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Final Split.
Woo!
Yeah, wow.
We did it.
We're excited.
We made it. Our 23rd episode anniversary. This is a milestone, if you ever ask me.
All right, then.
Just saying.
Not a milestone I was expecting, but all right. It's a milestone, I guess. So joining us, as always, of course, in the red box, we've got Spike Vegeta. How's it going?
It's going good. Feeling good. Arkansas broke their 10-game losing streak. Yeah.
Oh,
Woo!
there we go. Okay, yeah,
So,
I got a little bit of college today. I'm wearing the Minnesota shirt, but I'm not going to brag. We played like Middle Tennessee State.
Oh, no. We played not even a 1A school.
Right,
we played like a high school team, but
yeah.
we won. I don't care.
Yeah, I was about to brag about it on Twitter, like, hey, we're 2-0, and then I looked at like who we've played, and I don't think we should be bragging, but maybe someday. But all right,
Hey, it's the little victories.
Yeah, exactly. In the green box this week, we've got Puexel. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going good. How about you?
Pretty good. Anything exciting happening this week for you?
Well, I'm within 15 minutes of Hodorubi's Japanese FF6 record now, so
Ooh, that's
gonna try to keep that train going.
Anytime someone's pursuing a Hodorubi run, that's always exciting. So,
Isn't it crazy that Hodorubi messes around with like all sorts of games, including like RPGs, FF6?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to just kind of tackle whatever he feels like on any given day. So,
Right.
And joining us in the blue box, our first cartoon guest of the week, we've got Blecky. How's it going?
Hey everybody, I'm Max.
Max.
Yep.
I'm just going to call you Max for the rest of the show.
Proud to be here for the unveiling.
Yeah, the big unveiling. I guess before we get to that, though, anything exciting going on for you in the last couple of days?
Nothing too crazy. We had that Velocity Ultra race back in last Saturday. That was a lot of fun. And otherwise, though, I haven't been able to get too much speed running, unfortunately. But hopefully soon I'll be back in action. I do have a few AGDQ games I need to practice up on, so I'll be back to those.
And it's weird to think about this, but we're living in the post-submission world for
Yeah.
AGDQ. It feels like they've been going on for a long time, but
Where am I gonna go to get my daily salt intake
that's
now?
right. We're gonna run out of salt here, so we'll have to start stocking up for next year. But let's go ahead and get this show going, guys. It's time to press start, and it's pretty exciting if you ask me. I hate to be the biased guy on this one, but there it is. That's the link, the marathon schedule for JRTA. It's up, and already you guys have destroyed the document, so congratulations. It's going to be a weekend marathon coming up at the end of the month here, September 26 to 28. And the goal of the marathon is going to be to raise $6,000 to bring Ohan, Hanage, and Oxwas to AGDQ, covering their flight and their hotel and all of that. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all three of those guys, so I'm really excited for this.
For sure.
I'm excited that there's good diversity in the games that they play. It's not just bringing over a bunch of Mega Man guys or just bringing over a bunch of I guess like even platformers in general, but there's a good mix there. There's potential for some races between some of these guys, and I guess outside of the three of them, who all I think deserve to be here, if we look just at the schedule here, there was a ton of community involvement. People really wanting to get in on this marathon. We had way too many entries. I think 150 people submitted games to try to
Wow.
get in. And keep in mind, this is a weekend marathon, so we did the best that we could and ended up including about half of the people who submitted games. I think it ended up being around 70 unique runners playing just a little bit more than 70 games. So most people getting one game, some people getting two, and then we actually kind of offered to the guys that are going to be coming over to AGDQ, we said, if you want to play anything in the marathon, the more games you offer, the better. And they pulled through. We've got a pretty interesting potential smash hit game that nobody saw coming from Ohan. He offered Paris-Dakar Rally Special. So
Okay.
we've been pretty excited about that one. Looking forward to seeing what exactly that's got going for it.
I just want to I want to go back and see the smile on his face as he types that into the submission thing, and just really how excited he is to play.
And he knows he's getting it too, right? Like, we're not going to turn him down. And yeah, it's definitely not a game we were expecting from him. But yeah, so you know, just kind of looking through the schedule. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to really browse it, but if you had a chance to, what are your thoughts on some of the games that you're seeing here?
Well, there's one game for me in particular, my favorite NES game, that I am excited to see played at any point in time, no matter what, and that's just Legacy of the Wizard. I absolutely love that game. I was sorry to see it couldn't make it into AGDQ, and I was equally sorry to see that earlier this year, actually, it was supposed to, like, we were so close to seeing that intense rivalry between Dragon Darch and Fiesel come back on this game, and they were really excited to get into it as well. But for some reason, it just kind of died out. I don't think either of them were too excited about the idea, but I'm really excited to see it in this marathon. So I'm really looking forward to that. A few others as well. But.
And we've got some interesting races that, you know, I'm curious to see whether they will be kind of hit or miss as far as viewer reception. I know Pokemon trading card game, that's been done on bonus stream in the past, but that's definitely a game that needs commentary. And I know Cypher's been pretty hyped about doing commentary for that. So I guess the other thing to note too is maybe some of the evening blocks. They're a little bit different than what you might expect from a traditional marathon. It looks like Castlevania gets its moment in the primetime slot on Friday night. We've got...
Gotta have Castlevania at night.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's just...
it's a horrible night to have a curse.
And then also, not just the popular blocks themselves, but we're kind of noticing that within each popular block, you know, like the Marios, the Zeldas, the games that were offered this time around aren't the ones that you traditionally think of. We don't have Ocarina of Time. We don't have Majora's Mask. So instead, we have a very interesting NES Zelda block on Sunday. We got Zelda 1 and 2. And Mario block, I think we're looking at, you know, we got the NES with Mario Brothers 3. We've got the Super Nintendo with Yoshi's Island. We've got the N64 with SM64. So I don't know. I'm personally really excited about it. We had a lot of fun making the schedule, and I don't know if I want to name names because I don't want them to take the blame. You know, like if you want to direct blame at the schedule and you don't like who's on the schedule, or you know your game didn't get in, I guess you can direct it my way. But if other people who were involved want to state that, I'll leave it up to them because they do deserve the credit for helping make this happen so fast. Obviously, still a lot of logistic stuff left to do, but Spike.
I'll go ahead and applaud you guys for the schedule you put together.
Yeah,
this
really
looks absolutely stacked. I love the diversity, not just of the games. Like I don't feel like there's too much of any franchise, but I feel like it looks like you guys made a genuine effort to say, all right, we know Ohan could also do Mega Man 5. We know Ohan could also do something like Castlevania 3. And like there's a bunch of games up and down this list. We have runners that can do all of these, but it really seems like you went for diversity of not just like individual runners, but it feels like there's such a kind of like what you guys are trying to do for the HEDQs and bring this international flavor to the marathon. It feels like one run I'm in Texas, the next run I'm in Japan, and then all of a sudden we're going to shoot over to Sweden for this race, and then we're going to come back over to Japan for this run, and just kind of all over the place. I really enjoy that it's got such an international flair to it. And I thought you guys did a really great job with the schedule. And I will say, I'm a big supporter of Pokemon trading card game speedrunning, so I'm glad to see that made the list.
We've got the most interesting Pokemon block in existence. We've got trading card game and Platinum for the Game Boy Color. Now, if you've never played Platinum for the Game Boy Color, it's a real treat. It's not the game you think it is.
Ooh, I'm liking that 10-minute estimate.
Yeah.
sounds pretty developer intended.
I'm waiting for the actual Pokemon fans to be mad about that submission, but it is an interesting one to say the least. So yeah, the schedule's out there. I'll let you guys browse it and you know, send hate mail my way over the next several minutes. So
another thing.
Go ahead.
Another thing I'm really excited about, just from like a, you know, liking other speedrunners standpoint, is there a lot of runs in here that the runners were mad or sad or other emotions that they couldn't get into AGDQ, and but they made it in here, and I'm glad they're gonna get a chance to show it off.
Yeah, I was glad. Yeah, I was glad to see some games like Final Fantasy Tactics and
yeah, for sure,
that had been turned down for AGDQ get a chance here.
I'm really glad. I think Magical Poppin's in, and I'm really glad to see that. Like you said, what was it? Ring of Medulla, I'm glad to see as well. Galgun, for Oxwaz's sake, I'm glad to see him there. Even though I've never even seen that, but
I
I
wonder
just
if
know he
our
was upset.
stream will be up after that game is over. I've seen some gameplay footage, so
Uh-oh.
I'll put it that way. It's
All right. Get hyped.
now you
TOS
know
violations
just,
incoming.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just know that you're in for something when you tune in. I'm not gonna go into specifics, but yeah. So obviously our goals in creating this, not to like drag this out too long or anything, but we wanted to make sure that we kind of didn't have too much of one person as far as if there was variety of two people submitted the same game. But then one of them submitted another game. We tried to make sure that each of them got a game, that kind of thing. And it really is all about just bringing in people from all these different communities. The Sonic Block getting their kind of traditional early morning when they're usually streaming anyway, kind of section there. And just international flavor, like Spike mentioned, the Mega Man Block having an Aussie, having a Japanese runner, having the USA represented. It's a good mix. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope that we're able to make this happen and really kind of reinvigorate people to the online marathon. So in any case, if you guys have questions about the schedule or that kind of thing, you can ask them later on in the show at the end. We'll take some questions. But for now, I want to move on and talk about a record that was set this week, and it is a rather impressive one at that. This is quite a long game. We've got Dream Boom's
oh yeah,
Dragon Quest VIII in 12 hours. You are reading that correct. 12 hours, 20 minutes, and 16 seconds. Now this is a game that I guess Dream Boom has been playing recently, and it looks like he's going to set it down after this run, but it's definitely kind of developed almost like a cult following among Twitch viewers. What are you guys' thoughts on this run and this game?
Yeah. I'm not quite as familiar with this particular game as the earlier Dragon Quest, but just from what I know about what Dragon Quest speedruns are like, the first thing I think of is RNG hell.
Yeah.
Just that the Dragon Quest games aren't quite as unbalanced or broken as like the Final Fantasies or a lot of other Square RPGs as far as being able to beat the game without gaining levels. So a huge part of being able to get a good time at a Dragon Quest game is how quickly you can level up in certain cases. And I think like in DQ8, running into metal slimes at 1 or more points is required for that, and that's really heavily RNG based. And then there's bosses that can just troll you mercilessly depending on what they do. I mean, just anyone that's willing to take on that much potential to lose a run, like I've seen Dream Boom die to the final boss.
Yeah,
like
this
12
boss
hours of playing too.
Worth pointing out.
Is this the final boss here?
This is the final boss we're looking at. Worth pointing out that the run prior to this, or maybe it might have been a couple before, but I think it was the one directly before this. He had a run on PB pace that fell apart on this fight. A lot of fights in this game kind of revolve around setting up your party for several turns, and you'll notice how slow these turns go. You have to watch every animation for every move. And so if you spend 2 or 3 turns buffing your party, and then the boss decides to debuff them, you're looking at maybe a minute or 2 lost just from that setup. And so just to have the endurance to sit through this and play at a competent level, I mean, that's really impressive to me. This run is a 15-minute improvement over his last one. He said that he's pretty satisfied with that.
Yeah, I think that's, Porxel and I have both ran, like, obviously longer Final Fantasies, and I know in running Final Fantasy IX, there was a similar case where at the end of your run, if the game wants to, it can just
Guys, yes.
Shout-outs to Death Guys. The last time I played Final Fantasy IX, my run died first turn to Death Guys. 9 hours in. This is over 3 hours longer than that game. And I could only manage to do maybe a dozen or so runs of FF9. I have mad respect for anyone who can do this and, put up with all the menuing, all the memorization, all the knowledge you have to have in these games. Whether you like watching them or not, you have to have mad respect for that sort of thing. And the fact that he came back from a run like that died to the final boss is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, just the willingness to persevere after, you know, like, how would
This
you
is
feel?
half a day.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel bad, you know, when I blow a 30-minute game at the very end, but I imagine, like, if I lost a run that was 12 hours long, I don't know that I'd ever go back and touch the game again. So it's,
No, drop the controller, done.
see him bounce right back like that, yeah, that's really impressive. And yeah, I think the viewers too, it's just impressed me how well they respond to that game, because I get the impression that a lot of people watching Dragon Quest VIII never played it, or have very little you know, memories of it, that kind of thing. So it's definitely a game that can pull you in just by, you know, happenstance. If you tune in for the first time, you get caught there. So really impressive stuff from Dream Boom, and we thought we'd feature it before he stops running. I think he might already have stopped running it, so be satisfied with this. And I wouldn't blame him. Like, if that's what he wants to do.
12/20/16 is a good time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So yeah.
All right. Well, we got a lot of topics to talk about with you guys today, and we're going to try to dig a little deeper into them than we usually would. So let's go ahead and jump right to real talk here. And I guess we're just going to kind of go in order here with our guests, starting with Puexel. You've got an event coming up here next week. Would you care to elaborate on that for us?
Sure. Well, next Saturday, the 13th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, is going to be the second Super Nintendo Final Fantasy relay. Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6. It's going to be a 4-way relay by, well, basically the fastest Western runners around. One thing that excites me a lot about the people that signed up this time is that for all 3 games, their PBs are only about 10 minutes apart. So I'm hoping that we'll have a much more close and exciting race in front of us here.
I'm gonna pull up a little video here, and we'll cover up Max with it. How about that? There we go.
Sorry, Max, you're getting the shaft for
There
this.
we go.
Yeah, I guess just a couple other things to say too is that I'm looking forward to kind of a little higher production value this time around too. Like, I've actually got a professional graphics and animation designer that's helping me with the stream layouts.
Okay.
And because like what you see on the video right there with the kind of the bar that's in the middle is going to have some it's going to both have timers for the teams, but also an animated progress tracker to help give a better sense of like who's in the lead and like how the leads changed around during the relay. I'm excited that there's a lot of new faces around too. Like, you've got some well-known names like Essentia on the teams, but there's also some people that have only been running their game for less than a year or two. There's going to be a new thing I'm trying this time around too is the chance for people to vote for a bonus game to add to the relay, although it'll actually be the weekend after, just to make scheduling actually possible. But I picked out 4 other SNES RPGs that have somewhat active speedrun scenes to give them a shot to get some more exposure. Let's see, it's Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, Secret of Mana, and Lufia 2. So the audience will get to vote for that, and also the winners of each game in the relay will get to cast votes towards which bonus game gets added into, which should be a lot of fun. And then there's also going to be a Japanese restream on Nico Live too. Oxwis was gracious enough to translate an FAQ for me that I wrote on like version differences between the English and Japanese releases of the games, and like the rules differences between our communities and stuff. So I'm really hopeful that this will kind of help kind of bridge the gap between the Western and Japanese communities a little bit.
Yeah, because it's safe to say that the rule sets are very different from.
Yes, yeah, very different.
And I guess the previous relay was also broadcast on Nico. What was
so it was kind of last minute though. I just basically had an American who does broadcasts on Nico contact me like a few days before and ask if it was okay if he restreamed the relay, and I said, oh yes, very 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 much yes. And this time I worked with him and Oxwis further in advance to try to do a kind of a better planned out restream. But from what I heard, I think there were about 2,000 visitors over the course of the relay on the Japanese restream, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I guess... Oh, go ahead, Spike.
Oh, well, you go and finish this. I was going to move it to something else, but
Okay. I guess my question was going to be, how are teams chosen for this? Is it based entirely on PBs? Then is it trying to balance as best as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I basically picked of the only game that had more than 4 people offer it was Final Fantasy IV, and then I basically picked the 4 top PBs, and then I just tried to balance the teams out by primarily by PBs, but also just by consistency from runs of theirs that I'd watched too.
Okay.
So yeah, I wasn't going to completely change the topic. So, what's your favorite song? No, I was going to ask just in coming up with, I guess, the idea for doing this. What inspired you to make this happen, and were there any reservations? Of course, people always talk about the RPGs, they're RNG fests, they're bad races, and making it a relay, you're taking that, making it even longer. What made you say, no, this is going to work and this is why?
Well, I'm glad you asked. There's actually 2 sources I'd like to cite that gave me the inspiration to do this. First one was the Japanese Final Fantasy community, which does a lot of relays actually. Like they do both Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy relays. I mean, Super Nintendo was going to be about 13 to 14 hours. PlayStation 1 is about 25 to 26.
Yeah,
and,
it's a marathon of its own.
Yeah.
I'm no longer impressed by Dream Booms.
Yeah, let's take that back.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of how seriously they take it and how much they get into it. The next Japanese PlayStation Final Fantasy relay, there's 8 teams in it, and 4 of them are just one guy that's playing all 3 games back to back.
Oh.
Yeah. So I caught a good chunk of one of their relays like last winter sometime on Nico Live, and it was just tons of fun to see. Just to see how close they were able to make it too, because like reading their rules, they required everybody that's playing in the relay to like stream at least 1 practice run a week, or else they get disqualified. So that's how serious they take it.
Like you're trying out or auditioning to be
part
of it.
Because I imagine it just must be so. If you look at the leaderboards for Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest for Nico Live, it's just insane how many times there are posted and how close the top ones are. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching that. And then my other inspiration was actually Joka's Mega Man relay that I think you've actually been a part of in the past too. So after one of, I think it was Joka's first Mega Man relay, I just started an SDA forum thread to see if there was interest in doing a Final Fantasy relay, and I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to scrape together enough people to have 2 full teams, and I ended up having enough for 4, which was kind of basically I think the max for how many people can be in a race and have it still be possible to follow what's going on, stuff like that. So yeah, the first relay, which was in February, we ended up having about a 50-minute spread, I think, between the 4 teams, and because of how much kind of tighter the PBs are this time around, I'm hoping it'll be sub 30. I was blown away by the viewership interest too, actually, because we actually peaked at over 5,000 viewers at one point during FF4.
Do you remember what the best time was for the first place team?
I'd have to. It was a little over 13 hours total. I want to say, going by.
Yeah, so that close for that long of a relay is insane.
Yeah. I think for the last Japanese relay too, it was within 15 minutes from first place to fourth place. And the rules that they use are a lot more extreme too. They basically, I mean, I won't go into too many specifics, but they basically, their rules make the games harder to speed run and make it easier to die. It's kind of the bottom line.
They would go the opposite way. Is there anything we can do to get
the term marathon safe does not apply.
No.
So all these relays have been 4, 5, and 6. Is that correct?
Yes, this is only the second one, but yeah, just like the first one, it'll be 4, 5, and 6. I mean, what I really like about that is that all of those games are pretty different as far as what strats you use for a speed run. although the visual styles are still kind of similar. And then when they add up to be about 13 hours, that's kind of that's still within the realm of an event that somebody could watch from start to finish if they really wanted to. Once we're getting into like 25 to 26 hours, like a PlayStation Final Fantasy.
So I guess that kind of answers my follow-up question then. I guess I was going to kind of go towards, is there a possibility of, 7 or 8 or 9 making...
I was going to ask if you weren't.
Do you think there would be interest in something like that in the U.S.
There'd be interest, yeah. I mean, right now I don't really have interest in setting something like that up personally, just because of, I think, how difficult it would be to schedule something that long around people's availability, and I wouldn't be able to personally manage the whole thing because I would need to sleep at some point. But
what's wrong with you? Really?
Yeah, but yeah, if I'll never say never, and if somebody else wanted to organize a thing in the SDA SRL community, I would certainly want to be a part of it in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that you mentioned earlier, you're just talking about, the Nico community kind of inspiring this. I've seen streams where they're not even necessarily doing relay races, but just kind of inviting everybody to kind of, show their stream on one stream. It's like a compilation. You'll have 6 different RPGs. You can just kind of follow along with whichever one you want.
I've seen one of those too.
And it's just interesting to me when communities come up with these other ways to kind of showcase themselves, and so that's why I'm interested in these relay races. I think they're a good idea.
And the other thing I'll go ahead and say about it, kind of like the Mega Man relays, that what they stress is not just having the runs going and all these runners, they also have commentators for all of it.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing that, I can sit here and, tune in at some random point and maybe not, I could just be confused, but you guys actually had, 3 and 4 commentators during each game to just always explain, like, what's going on, who's in the lead, what kind of tech they're using. I know you obviously stress a lot that aspect of any marathon you're going to have of an RPG speedrun. Maybe if you want to go into detail what you think makes for a successful any sort of marathon style RPG.
Sure. Yeah. So kind of thinking about this, preparing for the show. I mean, for as far as what makes a really good marathon run of an RPG, I think there's really kind of 3 factors in that. I mean, the first one you just said, and I think that's commentary. An RPG speedrun often tends to be kind of a much more cerebral thing than like a platformer, because there's a lot of like menuing and like shopping and other stuff like that that goes into the route. And then there's also a lot of stuff that isn't immediately obvious why you're doing it too. Like you might do something that isn't going to matter for 3 hours after that or something like that. Right. So kind of explaining why you're doing that, and then calling back what the setup was when the payoff happens is part of it too. And just kind of explaining the routing, and also just keeping the audience entertained during slower parts too. Like if there's cutscenes where there isn't really much about the actual run to talk about stuff that's coming up, because one thing, I go back to the relay for a second too. One nice thing about having like 4 different people too is that it lets you see different outcomes of like battles or tricks or that sort of thing too, because a lot of speedrunning RPGs single segment is about adapting to what the game throws at you for RNG and stuff like that. So getting to see like potentially 4 different strategies for the same battle depending on what the game throws at the runner, I think is pretty nice. And then like for a single player run at a marathon, like using some downtime to explain like what could have gone differently or better or worse, and that sort of thing is nice. So I think I'm a firm believer that RPG marathon runs live and die by commentary. But then I think another important factor too is just kind of general entertainment value, and like what's the gameplay to cutscene ratio like? Are the cutscenes something that people are going to have nostalgia for? Like, I mean, like I'm sure everybody that's played Final Fantasy VI remembers Kefka and all of his one-liners from the Ted Woolsey translation. So even though you've got cutscenes, the audience is going to enjoy them. How popular is the game? Is it one that that like a decent chunk of the audience will have played or heard of? And will they appreciate what kind of a speedrun route is and how much that breaks the game compared to normal play? Are the battle strategies kind of exciting? Is there a variety throughout the run, or are you just kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again?
Right. If you one hit kill everything with the same move over and over, it could get old kind of fast.
Yeah. Are there cool glitches or tricks? I mean, like I think a big example of that is Super Mario RPG. Doing the 100 super jumps is always really, really impressive to watch, along with all the platforming to avoid fights and that sort of thing. Chrono Trigger is kind of getting like that too, with how much of the run is just doing all these like pixel perfect movements to avoid battle triggers, and then also doing RNG manipulation to kind of fix the dice in your favor. So just in general, I think entertainment values is kind of another big factor. And then the third thing I thought of too was donation incentives, because when you've got a run that's taking up several hours of a schedule, you need some really strong donation incentives in order to kind of make it competitive with having like a larger number of shorter runs.
Sure.
So like nameable characters is always kind of a huge thing too, because kind of thinking about it, when people are donating to like name a character in an RPG after themselves or a friend or foe or something like that, they're kind of donating to become part of the story in a lot of way too, because you see the character names all the time, like during cutscenes, during venues, during battles, and that sort of thing.
Your name was on screen when we broke $1 million.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Like every time Final Fantasy VI is in any kind of charity marathon, the Yeti always donates to name Umaro Yeti.
Right.
Stuff like that.
That was part of
it. Like extra content too. Like, are there super bosses that could be fought without either taking a whole lot of time to make possible or generating risk of dying? Are there like popular side quests or cutscenes that could be added in without it taking a whole lot of time? So just kind of I think strong donation incentives in general are another part of the package as far as having a strong marathon RPG run, especially for a kind of a general marathon like Games Done Quick. It's aiming to kind of have something for everyone.
I want to actually, now that you brought up marathons, I guess kind of at the end of that sentence, just kind of move on and talk a little bit about Limit Break here.
Sure.
Do you want to explain just a little bit about what this is? I think people will be excited to hear this.
Sure. Well, RPG Limit Break is it's basically going to be the successor to Crystals for Life, which was what was started as a Final Fantasy series marathon by Poxnor, and then was expanded to include other RPGs this past time. Poxnor decided to end Crystals for Life, and there was some drama surrounding that too. But a group of people, like including myself, a lot of whom went to Crystals for Life, have kind of decided to pick up the torch and start a new RPG themed marathon to continue the tradition, to both to have a successful charity fundraiser and also to give runners of RPGs that can be good marathon runs but aren't quite GDQ material for the three reasons that I talked about before, a shot at the spotlight too.
In terms of making your... Go ahead.
That's it. So it's going to be the next May, I think May 12th through 16th are the dates we set.
Okay.
Now, let's say I want to go ahead and submit. I have my own RPG in my own back pocket. Maybe I just got shot down for AGDQ. When will the games list possibly be going up for that, or submissions be up for that?
Probably in about a week or so, because I wanted to wait until the submission process for AGDQ had winded down, and then also the Final Fantasy relay, because I'm going to be pretty busy with that
it's probably a good idea.
Coming week. But yeah, I have a kind of a general planning thread on SDA forum for RPG Limit Break already going, and then I'm aiming for around mid-September to start the game submission process, and I'll probably let that go until sometime in early October, with kind of the hopeful goal at this point of having a games list decided by late October, early November.
Sounds good. All right, I guess I'm gonna close the video there, and you guys, obviously, if you have any questions for Puexel, we'll have the opportunity at the end of the show to ask those as well. But I would like to also move on and give Blecky a chance to talk a little bit about something that he's doing next week, which is the mystery tournament nearing the end here. So Max, I guess, if you'd like to explain,
Sure.
as the official mystery tournament mascot, Max, we've got the top 8 coming up here. What's that all about?
So basically, for the past month or so, just under a month at this point, yeah, because we started on August 8th. We've been doing the latest incarnation of the mystery tournament. We're up to the 5th now. And basically, with these mystery tournaments, just to give any viewers the idea of what's going on here, if they don't know, basically, a bunch of people enter the tournament. We had 138 entrants this time around, which is crazy. And a bunch of people enter the tournament. They submit their own games that they want other people in the tournament to play. And let me link the bracket here so you guys can see just how big this thing is.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge.
Boom. Delete a link. Cool.
Delete a link.
Oh yeah,
Why
of
did we
course.
not see that coming?
We're
What's
cursed
the
by
tournament?
the. There we go.
So yeah, check out that bracket. It is gigantic, and we've made it down to 13 entrants left now at this point. If you want to scroll to the right there. So in a minute, I'm going to go through just a little bit about who's left. You'll see some names you know, some names you don't. But yeah, the idea is basically that every matchup you get somebody else's submission that they submitted at the beginning of the tournament, and you've got all kinds of wacky games. We do have to keep it to earlier consoles because N64 emulation is rough, and we don't want like browser-based stuff like that. But you know, all the earlier consoles like NES, SNES, even stuff like SMS, you're open to do, are fair game. And, you know, people progress slowly through this tournament, match by match, and make it all the way to the end. And we're almost to the top 8 now. And like I said, we've got 13 people left. So once we get these last few matches in, on the same day, actually, next Saturday, we're going to be hosting the top 8 stream. I'll get to that in a little bit. I did just kind of want to go through very quickly who's still left in the tournament.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
We've got some familiar mystery tournament faces, but also some, I guess you could call them unknowns.
Yeah, so if you look at if you scroll to the right there in the winners bracket, we've got Captain Drake, who is the previous tournament winner. He beat me down. I took second place, he took first place, and he's back in action and is currently the favorite to win, I'd say. He almost had a loss to Rat Funk a couple rounds ago in a game. It's called The Humans for Genesis. It was a neat little puzzle game. And but Rat Funk actually had some kind of we don't know what it was. I think it was kind of a Alt-Tab / clicking out of the emulator issue, and on the very last part of the race, all of his guys walked off the ledge and died. It was absolutely horrific. I wish I should have gotten that video because it is really
what
funny.
a way
But,
to go.
yeah, it would have been so exciting for him to take down the previous champion. But what can you do? Sometimes your guys just walk off the edge. Next up we've got Full of Lizards, who is actually one of the 2 kind of underdogs, like way surprising underdogs of this tournament, I'd say. He's done really well, and he and Captain Drake are both Shovel Knight runners. So,
oh man,
yeah,
the Shovel Knight Showdown.
So,
Shovel Knight Showdown, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, in the
Shovel
very
off.
first match of the top 8, they're going to be going head to head. Scrolling down, still in the winners bracket, we've got Used Pizza, who's a Mega Man lover that everyone has come to know and love. We've got the last in the winners bracket to decide the last top 8 person in the winners bracket, is Jorf versus Nighty. Now this one's interesting because they have a bit of a storied history with one another in which they're both very good runners with their strengths and weaknesses. Nighty is really good at puzzle games, but really good still overall. Jorf is also really good overall, but even though they're both quite proficient, Jorf, their history is a 3-0 lead for Jorf. And so Nighty really wants to take this.
Yeah, I love that the mystery tournament has kind of developed its own like backstory as far as like the more of these you play and you start to have rivalries and win losses and that kind of thing. And some of those losses just keep piling up, but
some of those losses are just like totally wacky games for Nighty. Like I think he lost to like Barney's Adventure at some point in the first one. He's lost to Turbo Turtle Adventures for the GBA, Arkanoid, which he's always hesitant to play, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. And Nighty's a really good blind runner, so it would be cool to see him go all the way. But I got to root for Jorf as well, so it's tough to call between.
Yeah, and again, just to remind people, so the winner of this game will play Used Pizza in the winners semis there. All right, and then I guess we're looking down at the losers as well, just kind of see who's in there, seeing some familiar names.
So starting right off is in the loser bracket is Nest Kamikaze, and this isn't the top 8 yet. So a lot of these guys still need to duke it out to see who will be part of the top 8. But just to go through really quickly, I don't want to take too much time. We've got Nest Kamikaze, you guys know him. Tetsuya, he's a great blind runner. I don't think he specializes in anything in particular, but he's been a part of the blind racing community for some time. To see who will be going up against Tetsuya, we've got DS Midna, who's a SM64 and a Link to the Past runner, versus Omni Gamer, who a lot of you people probably know. And someone like Omni Gamer, I was really excited to see him in this tournament because I mean he knows. He's building his SNES library up quite well. If you ever catch his stream, he's got just like towers of carts behind him.
It's just the whole wall.
How much of this was actually blind for him? That's what I want to know.
I think everything. The only one I wasn't sure about is Magic Sword, but I think otherwise, everything's been blind for him.
Because if you somehow got a game that you had actually played, it's supposed to be a game you do not know, right?
It's kind of and it's kind of up to the people to say, I've played this. Do you want to repick it? And the other person would say, sure. We don't really hard enforce it. And actually, Golden was really the first person to kind of bring that to our attention with. What was it?
It was LADX
right?
two tournaments ago. Yeah, I think first round I had Link's Awakening DX, and I said that's not fair. I played the game before like hundreds of times. So,
and that's a game where
he still lost, but
I got knocked into losers. No,
so. Yeah, you repicked until who knows what. What's that?
I said why? It's a mystery.
Yeah,
that's right. No, so I guess
just because I imagine. Go ahead. Just because I imagine for Omni, I just imagine like, no.
Played that.
No.
Played
that.
Right.
Done that. Oh, he's got a world record in that. No.
There's just like a special Omni box, like when people submit their games. Like, he's probably never played this DOS platformer. All right, and it goes like. I guess so. One of the things I wanted to ask is, like this is the 5th incarnation of this tournament. What have you guys learned from previous tournaments as far as just structure of the tournament? Do you find a certain length of game to be good for these kinds of rounds? Do you save games for later rounds? Like this game is really good, we're gonna save it, or is it always random? Like what are some of the kind of behind the scenes things?
Well, in terms of picking games out, we do choose the top all the games that get played in the final top 8. And reasons for that is just to make it more enjoyable for the people and to make it more enjoyable for the audience to watch, and really just stuff like that. We just really want the top 8 to be successful, and so we try and pick and choose which games go on those days, and that's been pretty successful so far. In terms of lessons, we're pretty happy with the way this one went. And I know, Golden, you were really mad about Bugs Bunny or whatever.
I got one bad game. I'm not complaining. That's better than 2. So the game I went out on was really good. I got Rocket Knight Adventures in the losers. So had a lot of fun playing it, but didn't win.
Last passes.
But I don't think we the transition between each tournament has been pretty different from at least between the first three, because the first one was a completely different format. It was basically Boney had this idea. Boney Grunt had this idea to, for this tournament, he wanted to bring something like that. So he just picked basically all the games that wound up being played, and it wasn't until the second one where we really kind of had it be a user submission experience, which is really cool. And it's been that way since, of course. And also in the first one, it was a one-day affair. We kind of got away with it because it was way fewer people.
Sure.
But it's way more successful, I feel, as every 3 days you get your match in, and it takes about a month overall, and it just works a lot better that way. Otherwise, we've been basically every time we've kind of learned lessons about testing games. We are trying to make the games more enjoyable overall. It won't always happen just because,
Sure.
I mean, there are so many games out there that I think we'd rather have people experience iffy but interesting games than have a bunch of like offshoot Mario type games. Like we won't allow something like Mario World, but we don't really want to even kind of focus on more good but lesser known games. We also
So
just kinda
Mario
really
is
wanna keep it
missing his
fresh.
time to shine. Then
Right, yeah.
That's what I was going to throw out there.
Yeah, I mean,
We wanna-
it's safe to say that like one of the goals of the mystery tournament is to try and like spark some
Yeah,
interest
for
in
sure.
games that you haven't played, or at least get you to experience something you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of games this time around that I'm really excited to play myself, and that we'll probably have kind of scheduled races of in the future. Like, well, one of yours, Golden, previously was you had Zooming Secretary. You submitted that, right?
Yeah.
And that was a really fun one. This tournament around, we've had stuff like Pringles for Genesis, which is
Pringles.
it's a
Like the
homebrew
chip.
game. Yeah, exactly. It's a homebrew game after the chip brand, where you're bouncing Pringles head and you just kind of bounce around and do whatever. We've had like
Why
Metal
not?
Combat. What's that?
That's
I
awesome.
said, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds great.
We've had like Metal Combat, which is a really interesting submission because it's an SNES Super Scope game, and those are always interesting. We've had weirdo Game Boy games from like NES Kamikaze, like this one called Out of Gas. We've had puzzle type games like Picross or Guru Logic Champ, which is, I don't even know how to explain that one, but it's even better that way. All kinds of freeware games out there like Sprint King of the Jungle or Distorted Travesty, which is it's an interesting platformer. I think it might be a Metroidvania that rips sprites from other games. So yeah, we've had tons and tons of new games that I've certainly never heard of before that I was really excited to see, and that I think went really well. And so we really want to kind of keep that atmosphere where, like, yeah, maybe 10% games will be bad, but 90% are exciting stuff you've never seen before. That's really neat ideas that we want to introduce people to. So that's really one of my favorite things about mystery tournaments in general. In terms
Now
of
we've talked. Go ahead.
I was trying to think of other possible things we might improve for next time, but maybe dividing games into like easy, medium, hard difficulties just based on how long our testing team took for each one, and that might allow us to prevent something like a Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, which you didn't like, Golden, from appearing too early.
You
and we
stick
can
a
get
puzzle
that
game
later.
on me, and my brain just dies. Yeah.
But I mean, we've got ideas to spruce it up for next time. But overall, we're pretty happy with the way this one went. We think we've really found kind of a good overall setup for how these should go.
Yeah, I think it's really starting to click, and it's pulling in people from all over the community too. People who don't even regularly stream, or maybe don't even have a strong interest in speedrunning or RTAing necessarily. They're just kind of jumping in and taking part. It's a whole new way to kind of play games competitively, which is interesting.
And
Now you
Spike, did you
talk
have
of,
something?
yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the games themselves, these kind of off the wall submissions, but I'd like to also talk about the runners. You mentioned about a couple of these. Oh yeah, you'd think a mystery tournament. I would think you'd have different people winning all the time, but actually you do see some kind of consistencies. Like we're seeing Jorf late again. We're seeing Captain Drake going deep again. You won a lot of tournaments early on. Is there some philosophy? I remember us asking Jorf about this when he was on. Is there some philosophy that you have going into a blind race that you could recommend to other people who maybe want to jump in these in the future
Mhm.
that, could lead to success and all the money,
I'm
all
taking
the
notes, by
prize
the
money
way.
you get from this? Yeah.
It's a really good question, and I'm still developing that in my head. I think a huge part of it, I mean, when you watch somebody, you know if they're a good, like, intuitive, let's say, game player or not. It's all about intuition in these games, whether it's puzzle, platform, or whatever. If you see a situation and you get the game quickly enough to understand how you need to react in that situation, you're going to do well. And that's just kind of how it is. So I think you really just need to play a lot of various games, and you'll slowly develop that intuition between, like, oh, I remember, not you won't be consciously thinking this, but it'll just kind of come to you really quickly. Like, I remember in so and so game, like, the developer or whatever had intended for me to do this. Um, maybe this game will do the same thing for puzzle games, say, or you'll just kind of build your reaction speed for action platformers. So, I mean, I think it's really just kind of building your library of games up, and getting that experience with kind of gaming overall. Because there's this level of intuition that you can just tell that the most successful blind racers have
Yeah,
that some of the others don't.
I was gonna say I just kind of like I agree on that. I was watching Primal play
Hmm.
one of my submissions this time around, and just like the immediacy with which he
Yeah,
figured things
it's really
out,
true.
and he kind of speaks as he's playing too, so
Hmm.
he's narrating this whole thing, but just to like within 30 seconds, he
Hmm.
understands what every button does. He
Yeah.
knows potential mechanics. Like, oh, this might let me warp back to where I was. Oh, and like lo and behold, it does. Without him ever having tried it, he just kind of like sees the game and what the developers might have intended
Hmm.
just by looking at it. So it's really cool
Yeah.
to watch. So do you want to explain just?
One other tip that came to me when
Yeah.
you said that as well is basically, I think a huge part is just to start, like, with very safe strats and build it up from there. If you go in too quickly, you're just gonna die a lot, and you can reel it back as needed. But just finding that mix in the game of, like, how fast you need to go to do well in that particular blind race is huge. Because if you go too slow, you're just gonna lose, and if you go too quickly, you're gonna die a lot. So it's really
Right.
just kind of finding how quickly you need to go in a particular game.
So I guess just quickly on the top 8 stream, then what is the format for the stream so people can kind of know when to tune in and what's going to be going on there?
Sure. So it is going to be next Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the SRL stream. I'll link that real quick with a space in it. Why can't I do this?
Fight the system.
I even put the space there.
Oh man!
All right. Okay. Mix those two. Mix those two together and put Twitch in the middle.
It's okay.
That's
We got it. We've got it on the stream, so you're good.
There
It's
you
on
go.
the screen there. People can see it, but it's still really funny.
That's amazing.
All right. Well, so clearly we got to figure out the mod situation in this
Okay,
channel
yeah,
next
I
time.
agree.
So that does happen 1 p.m. Eastern next week. It's the last few ones have gone all day, like 11 hours or so. So it'll be going all day. We'll be bouncing between the winners bracket and the losers bracket in order to, just because we need to decide who's going to be finishing out the losers bracket. We'll be bouncing between those as needed. We'll always have a race going. The breaks will be very brief. And yeah, we've been souping up our commentary. Our own Golden right here will be helping out with commentary, along with many other established good commentators.
It's quite the list. There's like 10 or 12 people
Yeah.
going to be rotating in and out. So should be.
And commentary on these are really interesting because a lot of the commentators aren't, like, just cannot. It would be unfeasible to be familiar with a game. So it's really interesting, and it's a different type of commentary to just kind of pick up on these games really quickly on the commentary side and be able to commentate from that standpoint. But yeah, that'll be going on all day next Saturday, starting 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be taking it through all the way to the finish. So that's basically the idea.
Sounds good. And I'm sure people will have a question or two there again. So we're getting close to the end here. We'll get the chat questions for both of you guys in just a little bit. But there is one more topic to talk about here, and that is the Fantasy GoldenEye League. I never thought I would say that phrase, but apparently we've been seeing a lot of people playing GoldenEye recently, and this could potentially be to blame. The GoldenEye Fantasy League. The idea behind it is that a bunch of players try to improve their individual level times, and they're awarded points based on how much they improve. Not necessarily who's the best overall, but how far up in the ranks they improve, essentially, over the course of several months. Have you guys had a chance to see anybody playing GoldenEye the last couple days? You know, I think I've seen quite a few Zelda players jumping on board. You know, maybe players who have dabbled a little bit in the game, but you know, wouldn't call it their main game. Maybe making a return. What do you think about this kind of league? Go ahead.
I've seen these streams, but I did not know that this event was going on at all. And I read up on it a little bit just today, and I really love the idea, honestly. I think it's a really great incentive for people that kind of didn't think that they have this mentality of like, why try? Maybe I'll get a few points here and there, but like why kind of put forth this effort? Instead of that, I mean, there's really this really solid incentive to really kind of improve at the game for the sake of your team, and it's just a really neat idea. So I'm all for it, and I think I like GoldenEye speedrunning anyway, so it's a really cool idea in my head.
Yeah, I just kind of echoing what Blecky just said. It's such a wonderful format for, you know, not everyone, not to knock anyone down, not everyone's shooting for world record in every game they're playing. Some people just want to play it, but almost everyone in this community at some point just wants to see themselves get better. It's just see themselves achieve something greater than what they've got and see, hey, I practiced this a lot, and now look at what I was able to create from that. So, you know, yeah, you don't have to get on world record, but you can in some way contribute to your team. I think that's going to pull a lot more people in, and this just seems like a really cool format. I'd like to see this for other games in the future. So yeah, and kind of getting your own teams. I think it creates some camaraderie. You know, you've got Team Zerda going on right now, which is, I guess, the new hip way of saying Zelda. You know, you got all these teams coming together where, you know, you can just take your entire community essentially and say, hey, let's just go have fun and play this other game that we don't know a lot about. Kind of in the same vein, I guess, as Mystery Tournament. So cool to see runners doing stuff that's not in their comfort zone. And I don't know, it's been surprisingly fun to watch when you wouldn't think something not as rehearsed as we're used to seeing would be.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like tons of fun, and for me, that's what speedrunning should all be about in the end, is having fun.
For sure.
I mean, it encourages people to. I mean, I kind of equate it to like the Friday night, you know, Super Metroid race, or the Saturday night bingo, where it's just let's get together and kind of celebrate this game that we all enjoy. Whether or not you're the best at it doesn't matter. And in fact, this kind of system encourages you to almost be one of those players that's on the fence about playing the game, because if you improve a bunch, you're going to contribute way more to your team than somebody who's a veteran of the game and already has top times. So it really is just kind of like an incentive for players that are, you know, occasional players to jump in and really take part further. So it'd be interesting to see if something like this develops for other games as well. But I guess
are there any games we'd like to see this? Are we selfish enough about our games we want to see this happen?
Are you suggesting we need the Dryer Fantasy League? Is that what we need?
Dude, I'm down for a Dryer Fantasy League. That sounds awesome.
Right. I'll draft you. You can be my first draft pick.
Yes. You won't win.
All right.
Just letting you know.
All right. On that note, I guess let's move on, and we've got Glitch Please and then the Q&A with the chat here. So here we go. This one isn't even so much a glitch. It's just MTI's misunderstanding of what's going on. So we've got MTI here playing Deja Vu, and he's at the casino.
True.
Yeah, at the casino, and oh, unfortunately for him, he gets a 7.
Everywhere. Oh no. 7. Get out of here.
And another 7.
Nope.
Oh, that's like the worst
Yo!
loss ever.
I didn't even know you could win with that.
He didn't
Yo,
know
I
you could
legit
win.
did not know 7s were a thing.
Didn't know that 7s on a slot machine win you coins.
Get out of
This is
here,
not
dude.
the-
All right.
This is not the biggest fail we've ever seen, but this is probably the
Yo,
cutest.
I didn't even know you could win with that.
That's the word I'm going to use. This
Yo, I
is the
legit did
cutest
not know
submission I've
sevens were
ever
a
seen
thing.
for this. Is playing a game about slot machines apparently, and has no idea. I don't recommend going to Vegas with this knowledge.
I love his reaction when he gets the first 7. He's just like, oh, and he's
that's
still,
less than 8.
right?
That sucks.
But he still puts in the effort to get the other 7s, and like just the sequence of events doesn't make sense to me. Like if he thinks the 7 is bad, why is he still trying? But then he completes the 7s. And is shocked that he won. So there we go. Thanks to MCI for the submission. And again, just a reminder to everybody watching that we couldn't do these segments without you guys. So if you have a play, whether it's a good play or a not so good play, and you want it to be shown on the show, send it on over to our email address there, finalsplit@gmail.com. And on that note, I'd like to get some Q&A with the chat going here. I'm sure there are a lot of questions, so go ahead and start to ask those. It's time for the boss rush.
I've got a pocket question actually here real quick. I've got one for Puexel. Now, the last time I remember any sort of an RPG race being a thing was actually between the two of us.
Yes.
Maybe there's been something since then. I don't know. But we did Kingdom Hearts 2, 2011. And you think, all right, that was like a 6-hour run. It's probably a terrible idea. Ends up being 11 seconds. Now, are you?
Yeah.
Do you think RPG races can still be a thing at marathons? I know Kingdom Hearts isn't the biggest thing on RNG compared to maybe like Final Fantasies and such, but I know we've got a couple people who are submitting race ideas for RPGs and any down the line. Do you think these can be a good idea, or do you think they should be stayed away from?
I think it would. I mean, I think it could work potentially, but as long as making something a race doesn't destroy the commentary, I think would be my biggest concern in kind of having an RPG race in a modern marathon. Just because when you have games as a race, the fact that it's a race kind of takes over the commentary in a lot of ways, as far as talking about who's ahead, what needs to happen in order to trade leads and that sort of thing. And I mean. Like I know a game I've heard talked about as a bit prime race contender is Super Mario RPG, and that's something I could see working out, just because as I understand it, there isn't a ton of like really significant RNG in the game, depending on what kind of route you use, and then there's a lot of execution and skill. So like I could see something like that working, but as far as like a 4+ hour RPG and a GDQ marathon, I think it would probably be better, especially also for donation incentives too, if it was just single player.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that when you have a platformer and two people are running across the screen, it's easy for somebody to look at it and say, okay, that person is farther ahead on the screen than that person. But and those games kind of also don't necessitate as much commentary as an RPG would, where you'd want to be able to go through and explain your strategy before each fight, and you kind of have this worry about, what if one person gets just a little farther ahead than the other? Do I start explaining their strategies and then leave the other one behind? That kind of thing. But I don't know. Mario RPG seems to be one where people seem pretty excited about the possibility anyway, to really talented players potentially going.
Yeah, it's hard to say no to one of those runners. Like, the biggest negative to me, I have images of, I know Ivan's in the chat, but thinking about, well, he's the one who hit it, so he doesn't care. The X2 wheel gator, similar thing. You got a 3-frame window to chain wheel gator together, and there was spaghetti all over the floor at SGDQ. I'm just trying to think to myself, Checkers and Cypher next to each other doing 100 super jumps multiple times,
right?
And just
cause
like
I'm
these,
sure if
like
you
it's
ask people,
slightly off.
Yeah, because I'm sure if you ask people like what their favorite races at GDQs have been, it's been more stuff like Tiki and Caleb on Mega Man X, or like where it's a really close and competitive race, more than that it's a really good run. So
yeah.
So I think Like
You almost have
our
when
Kingdom Hearts race was pretty good in that regard too. I mean, it was the strats and stuff are extremely outdated and stuff by today's standards, but just the fact that we had about a 11, 12-second finish after a 6-hour race is just
Right.
it's just
there,
that's
there
just a
almost
thing.
becomes this. There almost becomes this sense when you're watching the race that you really want whoever's in the lead to screw up, and because
And make it interesting.
if it's
yeah.
and just like, oh, if they could just like die here, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
like pull it back.
I mean, just like perfect example, the SGDQ Donkey Kong Country 2 race. Just
oh yeah,
you know, it seemed like such a lock for so long, and then there was just this window of opportunity open to Twig, and it was, you know, like revitalized, you know, for the brief moment. But
Toxic Tower.
yeah, that'll happen. All right, we got some questions here for you guys. Let's see. What do you guys think of so many races submitted for AGDQ is the first one? We kind of talked about this a little bit last time, but...
Sure.
I mean, I absolutely love races. I mean, basically my thing is, I mean, if the game needs commentary, no race. And if the commentary isn't as big of a thing, I love to see the more races, the better. From a technical standpoint, I get it. But in my, for my needs and desires, I can't get enough races.
Right. Somebody's got to win.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to keep me away from the room for the Castlevania 4 race at AGDQ.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Oh my
Really
god. That and
pumped
Legend of
that.
Zelda are two of my biggest.
Darkwing versus Lack. Oh, that's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
No, and I guess that's my biggest thing is like I think some people have this mindset that, okay, you can only have arbitrary X number of races, and then you have to cut it off at there. I say if the individual game is more supported by a race, like it's going to be a more interesting show with it, or without it, like that's the direction you need to go in. So, yeah, I think if you've got potential for a lot of great races, I'm more negative about, man, they've got like 6 good DKC 2 runners. They've got like 8 good Super Castlevania 4 runners offering. They're going to have to say no to, 2 or 3 or 4 of those. So, when's the 8-way happening? That's what I want.
But I mean, on the other hand, though, I mean, having good other runners of a game, too, means you've got a really solid couch crew for commentary then, too.
Without a doubt. Because I think when you have a 4-way, even if one of the runners in the 4-way is really good at commentary, they almost have to sacrifice, kind of like the Super Metroid runners did, and just say, all right, what's going on my screen? I have no idea what's going on in the other 75% of the stream that people are looking at. So we need to allow other commentators to be on the outside and kind of direct the audience in that way.
All right, we've got a question here from Poor Scythe. What is the best resource for players who want to learn to speedrun Final Fantasy games?
I would watching streams of people doing runs. You really can't top just because just the routes and strats change so frequently that there isn't really, unfortunately, like a really good like wiki or other resource for getting in these days. So I would just say watch streams of people doing runs and ask questions.
Okay.
For sure.
Let's see. Do you think any relay races will happen at HDQ?
We got potential for a few. I know we've seen it just in the last few hours, more submissions have been accepted for a potential Ninja Gaiden relay. We've talked about DKC 3, or the DKC trilogy. 3's already been shot down. Maybe there's potential to pull it back in. Who knows? But
I've heard interest in Mega Man of some kind as a relay format.
Sure. Well, again, if you go back to the relay, they just had a Mega Man 1 through 10 that literally came down to a minute among the 3 runners. 1 second between second and third. It's definitely an advocate for it happening. I think because they've accepted a couple of these in the last few hours for Ninja Gaiden, we might be looking at something like that. I do think Mike and the selection committee is open. They are open to the idea of something new and exciting like that happening. And Ninja Gaiden would be a little safer bet. There's very little RNG in those games, if any at all. I'm not sure.
The strats are pretty self-explanatory. You get the clones, you break the game in 2. You get the spin cut, you kill bosses in 1.
Right. And you're looking at what, a total like 40-minute race maybe between the trilogy. I mean, I think it pretty much just comes down to if you have the runners, then I think they would definitely be open for it, and that's probably a really good series to kind of start it off with.
All right, we've got another question here. I think Blecky can handle this one. Who is your favorite for the mystery tournament, and why is it Captain Drake?
I saw that one. My favorite for the mystery tournament is Captain Drake. And the reason it's Captain Drake is Captain Drake. No, he's just a really good, like, we were talking about intuition and stuff before, and he's tremendously intuitive. In terms of not wanting it to be him only for the sake of a new winner, I think I'll go with Nighty, just because I think it would be really cool he's been in every single one, and I think he deserves to win one of these suckers. I'd also be happy to see and 4-H, Andy, or Full of Lizards to win, because they are the come from nowheres of this tournament, and they've turned out to be really good.
And of course, you know, I hate to, you know, just stick with my boys here. Yeah, I was gonna say Jorf used pizza in the winners bracket still, so I don't know, maybe.
Why did I even say anyone? I should have just stuck with Captain Drake.
Yeah, that's such a stacked winners bracket though. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's get one more question here, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's see. People are making fun of you for not mentioning Jorf. What is the most important thing for couch commentary?
I think there's a lot of mentalities you can go into. I think the number one thing, as someone who's done a couple of different couch commentary roles, is it's not about you. That you are there for support. That's like your number one title, really, is to allow the run to be about the runner and the game, and, you know, about the runner, all the work he or she has put into it, and then simply to pick up on, you can tell when there are lulls, you can tell when something wasn't explained that you think maybe is very important. Because again, it's amazing that runners are able to give such good commentary and run the game at the same time. So I think being there, support for them. Yeah, go ahead, Poexel.
Yeah, and just kind of keeping in mind too that you're playing for an audience that probably a majority of whom has never seen a speedrun of your game before too. So just kind of always keeping that in mind, as far as just never taking anything for granted as far as what the audience knows about even just the game period, much less the speedrun strats and route.
Right, yeah, a lot of it is just keeping in mind that even just common terms that we throw around in the speedrunning, you know, realm might be unfamiliar to the home viewer. So just being cautious of the way you word things can make a big difference as far as, you know, people understanding it.
My piece of advice is know the game well enough to know when the run is the most boring, and prepare for those just as much as you're preparing for the actually important tricks.
Yeah, and also know when to stop talking and respect serious time too.
Yeah, because you need, like, besides serious time, I mean, you need to have something in your mind, like, to keep commentary going and to keep the run exciting. Just because otherwise, I mean, it's just gonna feel like it falls flat. So just, like, be prepared to know enough about the game to always have something there to say when it's needed.
Yeah, sounds good. And I guess on that note, we're going to wrap it up here. So I'm going to ask Spike to find a raid target while I guess I'm volunteering, unless somebody else feels super compelled to do this speech.
Dude, if you're compelled, go for it.
I didn't say I was compelled. I said I'm volunteering. I said if you feel compelled.
I'm doing multiple things.
That's all right. All right, you're working hard there. So... Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're not. I have no idea.
Hardly work.
So I guess for the speech, one thing before I actually give the speech, one thing I want to point out too that I didn't mention earlier with the JRTA marathon, our bonus game, if we meet our goal, is going to be Dragon Quest III, which I know like every meme fan will be just thrilled by. So
Dragon Quest III is not 12 hours long too.
It is not, no, but in kind of an homage to Japanese speedrunning, that being such a popular game over there, we thought it'd be appropriate if we meet our goal to have a run of our own. So that will be the kind of overarching goal of the marathon, if you will. But as far as speech goes, there was a really impressive thing that happened earlier in this week, and that was that we had 3 classic Mega Man records broken in a 24-hour span.
Yeah, that was crazy.
We had Mega Man 1, 5, and 10, all the records taken there. I believe Dexter with 1, Ohan with 5, getting into the 35 realm for that game, breaking into the 35 minutes there. I think he's now 30 seconds ahead or so and then Magma Peach with 10, improving that by about 15 seconds. So just a really impressive feat. Cool to see that these games that we kind of regard as, I don't know, competitive and cutthroat, still finding ways to break those open and get records. And just to see the back and forth between players is always fun. So who knows? You know, I guess one of the arguments that I saw the other day too was people kind of arguing about which Mega Man is most vulnerable at this point. Some saying 4, some saying, you know, 7, 8, something like that. But it's cool to see. Just who knows what the next one's going to be with the level of play that these guys are at. So
I'd like to see somebody go for 9, just because I think that's the longest standing classic Mega Man record right now.
It probably is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a dangerous one too, as far as, you know, if you're going to pick one to go after. You better be really
I've got
lucky.
it. Come on, Wiley.
Yeah, you better have just
Denied.
the luck of the gods. You know, if you win the lottery, then the first thing you should do is pick up Mega Man 9 because you've got some good luck. So. All right. On our next show, by the way, guys, here's the plan for the next couple of weeks. So we're not going to do a show next week. The week after that, in order to kind of help me do some organizing with JRTA Marathon, we're going to do an easy episode. So on the 20th, it's going to be a best of the Glitch Please segment. So we've had enough episodes now where we can kind of put this together. It'll just be a quick recap episode. If you haven't watched all of our episodes, you'll probably see a lot of new segments that you didn't get to see before, but it'll be kind of like our blooper show. And then we'll do another week off after that for the JRTA Marathon and then come back. So it's going to be like an every other week kind of thing for the next couple of weeks around here. So we'll see you on the 20th for that episode. Anybody do anything fun this weekend? Want to get some final, shout outs or things like that in?
I'll be on stage next week. It'll be good.
Good luck with that. Break a leg. No, not good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No. Good luck would be terrible.
Break a leg.
Thank you.
All right.
Got last minute things to prepare for the Final Fantasy relay,
I
like
was about to
writing
say,
an FAQ. Some other
These
stuff.
2 guests of ours are doing their events next week.
Yeah,
so.
you guys got that next week to prepare for. So
Fortunately, I think we've got pretty different audiences. So
I plan to watch both. So.
There's this thing called multi-Twitch or
Yeah.
speedrun.tv too.
I was going to say, I hope they get along, realizing that both of them are going to be pitching, watch my event this coming weekend. But
so you both just start trash talking.
And there's this wonderful thing
about
called
mystery tournaments.
And there's this wonderful thing called VODs too.
Yeah, very much so.
All right. Well, on that note, guys, thanks again to everybody for tuning in. Do we have a raid target, Spike?
We do. Oh,
I called
it.
Called it.
Deleted link. Okay. Well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, go to that very
link
specific
there.
link right there.
All right. Well, yeah. If you can figure out who we're rating, that's up to you guys.
Okay. There is a Twitch.tv before this, but I want you guys to go check out Slurpy Ninja to celebrate all these new Mega Man runs. Golden's new favorite Mega Man game. He is blind racing it right now.
What am I doing?
So, Slurpy Ninja.
I thought you said I was blind racing a game right now. I got really
Got
confused.
DOS Mega Man or something?
The pressure is on me.
Awesome. That sounds legit.
All right. Well, anyway, guys, just remember that your run is not over until you hit the final split. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Okay.